Okay, Zemri. So by now, you should have watched the video on understanding meter, the Schmoop videos, just to kind of give you a review of the different types of accented and unaccented syllables, and also how we measure feet in poetry. And then you also should have watched the two videos on understanding stressed and unstressed syllables. Now, I know that they were meant for people who are learning English as a second language, but they are fantastic videos for poetry to figure out how do we understand stressed and unstressed syllables. That's one of the biggest problems that people have is, well, I don't know what's stressed and unstressed. How am I supposed to figure this out? And I love the teachers' method of taking a rubber band to really emphasize, are you stretching this? Is it stressed or is it unstressed? And then reading it as if it's stressed or unstressed. And so we're going to do that when I'm going to go over a couple different a couple different problems on here with poetry. Figuring out stressed and unstressed syllables. All right, and then show you how you figure out not only your rhythm, but also your feet, okay, to totally encompass meter. So if you have not watched those other videos, stop this one, go and watch the other videos first, and then come back to this, because this video is us putting into practice what we just learned, okay? Now, remember that poetry is the meter is based on the accented and unaccented or stressed and unstressed syllables. We're not looking at just the word, we're looking at syllables. And so let me make this a little bigger here so you can see it really well. When we're talking about stressed and unstressed syllables, I'm going to use this color. It's easier to stand out here. We have to first really look at our line of poetry. I like to look at our line of poetry first and figure out our syllables. So if you don't understand how to break words apart into syllables, I want you to let me know, because that is an important skill to have. You have to be able to break everything down into syllables. And then I'll add that video onto this packet that we're looking at. But syllables, we'll kind of go over syllables just a little bit here. Syllables are the vowel sounds that you hear in a word, okay? Again, it's the vowel sounds that you hear in a word. It's not the number of vowels in a word. It's the vowels sounds that you hear. For instance, the word like, it has two vowels, but you only hear one. Like has only one syllable. So I like to first kind of break down my line of poetry into the syllables first. Okay? So we have like, which is only one syllable. Okay, so I'm gonna draw a line between all my different syllables, which means I might be breaking some words apart here. The has only one syllable. Snow has only one syllable. Covered has two. We hear the cov and the erd. All right, so when we're breaking covered down, we're going to break it down into two syllables. Fields, only one. And so when we look at this first line of poetry, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 syllables in this line of poetry. This is the best way to get started. And I don't think that some of the videos that you have watched tell you to break it down into syllables. I'm not sure. But you first want to break your words down, your whole entire line of poetry down into syllables. Okay? And we can do the same thing with the second line. On a wintry day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So even though this is a smaller line of poetry, it still has 6 syllables. Okay, both of our lines of poetry have 6 syllables. Okay, so Now that we have broken these down into syllables, we need to figure out what are the stressed syllables or what are the unstressed syllables. And we're going to use the method that the teacher in the stressed and unstressed syllables videos talks about. Do we say like or do we say like? We just say like. So like the. Those are two very quick syllables. Those would be unstressed syllables, okay? And so we would say unstressed, unstressed, like the. They're very quick. But when we say snow, right, we don't say snow, we say snow. Like the snow, okay? Snow is a little longer. And then covered, both. We don't say covered or covered. They're both unstressed. Covered. Fields is a little longer. So if we look at this, we have like the snow-covered fields, okay? And then the second line is going to be the same way. Oops, trying to squeeze that U in there. So, on a wintry day, okay, like the snow-covered fields on a wintry day, okay? That is our rhythm, okay? So again, use what the teacher told you in the video. Should it be like the snow-covered fields? That sounds really weird. No, the stressed and unstressed marks are not correct. Like the snow-covered fields. Okay, when we go back to page 6, now the two most important pages in your Understanding Meter tutorial is page 6, which talks about the rhythm, and page 35, slide 2, no, I'm sorry, page 36, slide 2, which talks about how you break them down into feet, okay? So let's take a peek at the page 6 on your tutorial. Page 6 is the different types of patterns, okay? Patterns of accents. And when we look at our patterns from our poem, we had 2 unstressed, 1 stressed, short, short, long, and that would be anapestic. All right, so when we come back here, we realize that we have an anapestic pattern, which means that anapestic, they're in groups of 3. All right, so I'm going to group these in groups of 3. How many groups of 3 do I have in that first line? I have 2 groups of 3. That tells me that I have a, now some people say diameter, some people say dimeter, okay? I'm going to say dimeter because we have meter, which is the length, and di, which means you have 2. So meter is the feet. Di means that you have 2 feet in this line. You have 2 sections of this pattern in this line. So that means that we have our pattern is anapestic and our feet is diameter, okay? When we come down here, we have an anapestic diameter, okay? All right, let's take a look at one more. Let's take a look at number 3 here. Now this is all from your results from the first time you took this mastery test. We're going to do the same thing that we did in the last one. Okay, we have to determine first our number of syllables. So we have the, and I'm going to break this apart, C is calm to night. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, this is another 6-syllable line. Let's look at this one. The stars are shining bright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, look, we have another 6-syllable line. Okay, so we're dealing with 6 syllables again. We have to determine stressed and unstressed. Okay, so we know that the is always an unstressed. The. Now, do we say see or do we say see? The sea or the sea. See should be, when we say see, we don't say see like that, we say see, right? It is stressed. The sea. Okay, is an unstressed. Calm. The sea is calm. We don't say calm, we say calm. Tonight. So now we have our stressed and unstressed. The sea is calm tonight. Now, if you're not sure if you found the correct stressed and unstressed syllables, you could always try a different rhythm and see if it works. And so if we said stressed and then unstressed, we said the sea is calm tonight. That would be weird. That would not work. So we want the sea is calm tonight, right? And then we can go down to the other one. The stars are shining bright. The stars are shining bright. Now we see that we have groups of, so remember, it's either going to be unstressed, unstressed, stressed, or unstressed, stressed. Notice that you have an unstressed and then a stressed. If we come back to our page 6, we look at all of our different types of patterns. The pattern that has an unstressed and then a stressed syllable is iambic. So we know that we have iambic. Iambic, is only 2 syllables. Okay, only 2 syllables. So we're going to break these down into groups of 2. Now, how many groups of 2 do I have? I have 1, 2, 3 groups of 2. All right, which means that's a trimeter. Meter meaning the number, meter meaning feet, and tri meaning that you have 3. All right, so we know that we have an iambic trimeter. Okay, iambic trimeter in this particular poem. Okay. I hope this little video helps. All the little videos that came before this and then this one. Again, if you're struggling with anything that we just went over, or if you need a little bit more help on understanding how to break down syllables, please let me know. All right,